Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
No, let them go on. Srinath, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear very well.
You are able to hear us?
Yeah, I can hear very well.
Okay, I think. Okay. This.
I can hear very well.
So you are able to see me?
Yeah, I can see you and also hear you properly.
Wonderful. So we will start here. All right. Namaste, everybody. Very happy to present this webinar. I am here in Sikkim at Gangtok, and we are in the middle of a spiritual retreat where we are studying Mundaka Upanishad. And with me today or this evening here, there are about 40 participants of this retreat. Maybe you heard a while ago some chanting of Om Namah Shivaya. This group was doing it for the last few minutes. So welcome once more to everybody in different parts of the world to this webinar. And as you know, the subject, the topic, the theme for this webinar is a question. When are we spiritual? What makes us spiritual? When can we say we are spiritual, or when can we say somebody is spiritual? For there are these words: spirituality, religion, religiosity, and so on. People say, I am a true Hindu. Somebody says, I am a true Christian. I am a true Buddhist, and so on. So, words are not in shortage, but what exactly is it to be spiritual is the question. In the bhajan that was very dear to Mahatma Gandhi, Narsi Mehta uses the word Vaishnava Jana and gives his own definition. And we would take liberty and translate that line: only he, or for that matter she, is truly God-minded, truly spiritual, who understands the suffering of others. Otherwise, out in the society, there is a lot of ideas are floating about what it is to be spiritual. People, without examining the word in its exactness, simply refer to somebody who goes a lot to temples or mosques, churches, or some holy places and say, you know, he is very spiritual. You know, she is so religious. But here in this webinar, we are not going by what masses or what people in general say. We want to examine the essence of spirituality. Great mystics, great wise people have thrown light on this, and they have sharply criticized false ideas of religiosity. In one of his statements, Sri Ramakrishna, Guru of Sri Vivekananda, says, what is the use of somebody who shows himself to be spiritual, maybe by his dress, maybe by reciting some mantras or chanting something that is considered sacred? What's the use of all that if he, in his heart, always has sense objects, worldly pleasures as the center of his thoughts? In fact, Sri Ramakrishna gave the example of a vulture that soars high, 1,000 feet, 2,000 feet or more high in the sky, but then the eyes of the vulture or upon some creature crawling or moving on the earth. The vulture, in spite of its great height, physical height, has its eyes actually on the earth, on filling its stomach with the food that it can make out of that creature. That is the example or metaphor that Sri Ramakrishna gives to any of us if we just in the name of spirituality have external marks, external things like dress or some big talk, and we actually do not walk the talk. Therefore, this seminar or this webinar's theme is, when does the talk become the walk? Between the talk, saying big things or showing off big things, and walk, which is actually being spiritual, alas, there is quite a lot of gap. Sometimes we are not aware of that gap. Sometimes, even though we are aware, we find it very hard. There is many a slip between the cup and the lip, as the expression goes. You and I try to be spiritual, but we slip, we fail, we fall, we falter. After all, to console us, there is the old saying, to err is human, to forgive is divine. But that statement doesn't go to the extent of saying to err again and again is human. We err, and then as intelligent human beings, we are supposed to learn from our errors. Even if we have fallen 10 times, we may get up and walk and avoid falling the 11th time. So already I shared with you one acceptable, wonderful, wise description of what makes one spiritual. I refer to, as you may remember right at the beginning, the first lines of the bhajan in Gujarati, Vaishnava Janato Tene Kahiye Pir Paraye Jane Re. So you and I can ask ourselves, not counting or not referring to the prayers we do or japa that we do, the meditation we sit in or the satsangs we attend, all of them have a place of their own. Do we understand the suffering of others when we are in a position to help, if not anything else, to listen to somebody's grief? Do we come forward, or do we just say, "Ah, that is his problem, not mine"? Do we behave in an indifferent way? To be truly spiritual, one has to question one's behavior, not just in the temple or in the puja room. One has to watch out and ask oneself, is my behavior correct in all relationships, all interactions, all transactions? Coming to the messages of Upanishads, Upanishads have talked a lot about an illumined person, an enlightened being, her vision or his outlook. But this evening here in India, for some of you I understand it's morning, in this webinar, let me say, I would like to highlight a line in the Mundaka Upanishad which says, satyena labhyah tapasahi esha atma. There are a few more words, but let's just take the main part. Satyena labhyah esha atma. The Upanishads refer to a truly spiritual person as Atmajna, knower of the pure self, Atmavit. There is a line in Chandogya, for example, Tarati Shokam Atmavit. One who knows oneself, one who knows the pure self, Atmavit, crosses sorrow, goes beyond suffering. Somewhere else it is Atmajna, Atmajna or Atmajnani. In Bhagavad Gita, we have words like Sthita Prajna, Gunatita, and so on. In the Upanishads, we have the very foundation for spirituality, defined or described in no uncertain terms. For example, this line I quoted already from Mundaka Upanishad, satyena labhyah tapasa esha atma, says it is through truthfulness that one comes upon spirituality. As it applies to this webinar, I would take a little liberty of translation. For satya, I said truthfulness. I would now put it as a life of integrity. Everybody, of course, has doubts. Is it possible to live honestly at all in modern times? Don't we see that dishonest people are having a better time? They are being successful and so on. Well, these things cannot be answered in one or two sentences. This matter has to be examined carefully. I personally would say that if indulging in untruthfulness, if living a life of lack of integrity, somebody has come upon some success, that success is not going to give to him or her true fulfillment. That success, which may make him famous, and out of that fame and name he may have some pleasure. Once in a while he may feel good. I have become famous, and even I have helped a lot of people. I have come to a position of prominence. These things do give a little pleasure to the human mind, but then the happiness of someone who has subdued his ego, who has gone beyond his individuality itself, is way beyond these forms of satisfaction or these forms of rejoicing that worldly success gives to us. So, what is the significance of satyena labhyah esha atma? First, it appears that satya is the starting point, a life of integrity is the beginning, or it is a means, and self-realization or God realization is the end. Well, in a sense it is so, but as we take the topic in greater depth, when there is total integrity, in whatever way it may come about, that's another question. Where there is total integrity, there is total realization. Integrity and self-knowledge go together. However, in a simpler model, we say integrity in daily life prepares us for those higher insights. If there is a great scholar, but his life lacks integrity, he is not spiritual. If there is somebody who is not scholarly, who is not famous, who is not known really beyond a few people, but who lives a life of integrity, there is bound to be spirituality. After all of us know that behind every single saint or sage or mystic that the world came to know, there are and there were many whom the world did not know. Or sometimes someone like Sri Ramakrishna, someone like Sri Swami Tapovanam, and so on, by themselves were known to a few hundreds or a couple of thousands. But it is through their disciples like Swami Vivekananda or Swami Chinmayananda that these masters came to be known to the world at large. So this coming to be known and becoming famous, etc., is a side issue, if not a non-issue. We need to examine the state of consciousness. What is lack of integrity? What is lack of truthfulness? Isn't that person living in fear? Isn't that person living in image consciousness? Isn't that person worried? What will people think of me? And what will people do to me? And so on. Or isn't that person attached to some limited gains? Oh, my business should succeed. Oh, my promotion should not be jeopardized. Oh, my book should not become a flop. So a little lie here and so on. Take a look at that state of mind. Maybe by compromising with truth, this person gets some success. But then, before, during, and after that success, the state of mind is marked by fear. It's marked by certain concern about one's own status. What will I be in this society? Where will I be? Now, what is this I about which one is very concerned? The mystics who emphasize satya, integrity, are more concerned with the inner state of consciousness being free from fear and the practicalities of living a life fall in place is their vision, their conviction. On one hand, it is integrity, and on the other, not really different from integrity, but as necessary and inseparable dimensions of that very integrity are other human values. In Bhagavad Gita, for example, um, there is a set of 5 verses in chapter 13 where 20 values are given. And those 20 values also actually define and describe a truly spiritual person. Amanitvam vitvam ahimsa kshanti marjavam and so on. 20 values are given and call them values, call them lakshanas, call them features, call them characteristics of somebody deeply involved, deeply engaged in spirituality, or we may even take the liberty of translating it as anchored in spirituality. When are we spiritual? Let me say, this list of 20 characteristics are a wonderful self check. Amanitva, not to be uh, affected by some sense of superiority. Mani means somebody who thinks he is superior. We hasten to add that even somebody who thinks I am inferior does not have true spirituality. In true spirituality, there is this quality of that consciousness. One notices that people may look at one as superior or inferior, but one oneself questions it. Why am I superior? How can I be superior? How can I be inferior either? These judgments, these labels, these descriptions are questionable. Is the insight that the spiritual person has. Amanitvam, adambhitvam. Dambha is showing when one doesn't really have this stuff. You see, mani is one shows off when one has something. I have a huge house, let us say, a huge bungalow, which hardly anybody in my friend circle or social circle has. So I actually have such a big house and therefore I show it off. I feel superior about myself. That is manitva. Whereas dambhitva is I really don't have, but I show myself as being superior. Sometimes it happens in religious context also. Actually, I don't do japa at all, but I keep some japamala and so on. And when somebody knocks the door, I look for where is the japamala, and with the japamala in hand, I open the door. How can I help you? And so on. And when that person goes away, I again keep the japamala somewhere. Without really being somebody who does japa, I try to show to people I do a lot of japa, let us say. That is damba. That is all this false show. And that is where hypocrisy comes in. Please see, though Bhagavad Gita is such an old text, the teachings there are relevant to modern times when Sri Krishna says at the end of those 5 verses giving 20 values, he says, Etad jnanam iti proktam ajnanam yad ataha anyatha. This is jnana. The word he uses is jnana or gyan. This is wisdom. But I'm convinced that as applied to this webinar, it is a description of a spiritual person. A spiritual person finds no need to show that she is either very religious or very rich or very knowledgeable, very talented, uh, not less than anybody else. Hum kisi se kam nahi. One wants to say, I am not less than anybody, wants to show that is ignorance, ajnanam. A spiritual person sometimes may feel pained at some disadvantage in the society or some kind of unfair treatment that people give to him or her, but that pain is a different matter. Though there is some pain at the way people are treating her, if this person is truly spiritual, she just doesn't like to show, doesn't like to deceive them by some false show. So there are a number of pointers, but let me come back to integrity. Quoting Sri Ramakrishna once more, he said, I can give up anything, everything I just, you know, I'll offer at the feet of Mother Kali. And one day in some kind of dramatization, we read it in the gospel. He, in fact, if I remember right, goes on saying, here is this I am offering to you. Here is that I am offering to you. Wealth, health, and even some various values. And then he is about to say, I give away truth also to you. Then he says, no, I can't part with truth. This devotee that Sri Ramakrishna was obviously a person of tremendous jnana. Therefore, as some of you may have heard, Vivekananda once said, my master was a bhakta outside but a jnani inside. I am a jnani because I go around and give lectures. I am a jnani, a scholar outside, but a bhakta inside, and so on. This is a side issue, bhakti and jnana going together. So, satyena labhyah esha atma is the crux of the matter. By satya. Now, once more, I will take up certain dimensions of satya. To begin with, all of us equate satya with probably speaking truth, speaking or saying what actually happened. Yathabhuta vadanam, it is said. Vadanam is saying, Yathabhuta is as it happened. This Yathabhuta vadanam, of course, has a very important place. But as we scratch the surface and go to a deeper level, a truer appreciation of satya, integrity, living in integrity, in fact, it is nothing but a house in order, to use an idiomatic expression. Where there is satya, there is a tremendous absence of conflict. I would take the liberty at this point to say somebody may tell a lie, but suppose in her heart, in his heart, there is total conviction that I said this for a reason which is in total agreement with my deepest values, then there is integrity there. Though somebody with that spiritual strength, with that kind of inner clarity, would rarely go for telling a lie, would rarely, such an occasion would rarely come. In fact, in lots of situations, a person who is spiritual has the intelligence to manage various situations with no single lie. But in some rare case, even if there were to be a lie, more than the spoken lie, I would imagine, inside her or his consciousness, there is an agreement. What I did, everybody may criticize or may find fault with me, but that was not against my values. I did not compromise with my values. Rather, it was true to my conscience. I went by my conscience. Suppose you and I, in some situation, are able to experience this agreement with our own conscience, then there is that perfume of spirituality in us right away. The difficulty, in other words, what I am trying to convey is, it's not whether we told a lie or we just spoke the truth. Once more, that has its place. But more importantly, are we deceiving ourselves? Are we messed up inside ourselves? When we ask ourselves, did I have to tell that lie? Do we think, I don't know, maybe I could have avoided, maybe I should not have? Then that confusion, that lack of homework, that lack of order within oneself is certainly lack of integrity. Why does it happen? This happens because we have time for everything else. We don't have time for a conscientious life. What is conscientious living? Even when we make a mistake, if we take a few minutes to just examine, how come this happened at my hands? How come I did this? How come I said this? With a certain passion, with a certain intensity, if we are in self-examination, and even better, right when we are about to say something inappropriate, about to say something which is not true, suppose there is certain alert silence that is watching it, then order comes about in our life. It's not by scratching the head and trying to memorize what is said in Manusmriti or Gita, Bible or Quran, not remembering some shloka or mantra, but it is keeping an eye on what we are about to do, what we are about to say, moment to moment. If there is an increased self-observation, self-awareness, then integrity is bound to shine forth. Integrity is waiting to be discovered in us, but we have some other things to do. We are busy with it. Very busy with other things, I mean. So, integrity, about which, as I already referred to, uh, many times it is said it's extremely difficult modern times. People say, we also feel. But to put it in a little simpler language, I would say, it has become extremely difficult because we have not worked on our inner strength at all. We have worked, we have spent hours and hours, if not weeks, months, years, and so on having financial strength. Sometimes to finish some financial papers about some investments or some, financial matter, we stay up to 2 a.m. and then, okay, tomorrow I am going to submit all these papers. Then I won't lose even one penny now. I have taken great care to protect my financial reserves. We pat ourselves on the back and go to bed at 2 a.m. Do we do that when we have a moral conflict? We tend to say, I should not have done it. But sometime when I have free time, I will examine myself. I need to become a bit more morally strong. Yeah, that is true. This kind of casual approach we have about keeping our moral house in order, keeping our financial house in order, or the physical house in order, especially those portions of the house where others come and see, we take great trouble to keep it clean. Then there are some portions of the house where others are not likely to visit. Then we say, "Yahan koi nahi aayega." Nobody will come. So I can probably clean it up later. Now, there is more than the outer, cleanliness or otherwise. Behind that thinking, behind that process of thinking, that what people will see, I'll take care of. What people don't see, I will look into it later. There is a problem with that state of consciousness, state of mind, that state of being. It's a messed up state of being, and that takes its own toll. That takes that has a price that we have to pay, and we are all paying that price. By and large, overwhelming majority of humanity is day in and day out, number one, living in compromise, saying there is no other way. Number two, paying a price for it. no peace of mind, no solace inside, and so on and so forth. I'm not trying to scare anybody here or being judgmental. I'm not throwing putting a label on everybody. On the contrary, let me say this at the end. I am sharing a good news with you. The good news is, just as with a little care, we can ensure that our finances are all right. With a little care, a little exercise and right food, etc., we can ensure good physical health, mental health. With a little care, that is certain self-examination, preferably right when we are about to say or about to do something, with a little care and self-awareness, just be aware. To be aware goes a long way. It removes the conflict. When you are aware, suppose you are going to sleep and actually you are not sleepy at all, out of just laziness you are sleeping. Once you are aware of it, that awareness itself says, hey, I am neither tired nor sleepy, and just some lazy thought has come, let me sleep. So once you notice it, you will not sleep. You will work or you will do something meaningful. So awareness catches some inappropriate thought, word or deed right when it is about to take place, right on the fly, as you say. And then as there is living in alertness and awareness, one by one, our thoughts, our words, our actions are bound to get cleaned up and integrity descends on us. Integrity doesn't require some kind of PhD, some kind of special knowledge or special intellectual abilities. If there is a certain passion, if we really want to live a life of integrity, then we would be watchful. We would be very alert. We would keep an eye upon how we are treating others, how we are treating ourselves, and so on. Then integrity dawns upon us, descends into us. And when there is integrity, you and I may not know a single line of Bible or Upanishads, of the Quran or Dhammapada. We will have spirituality in us. We are spiritual. We walk our talk when there is this living in awareness from which integrity is bound to arise in us. Let me pause here and invite questions from people in different places, and I will give a chance to the 40 people in front of me also. But let me first see whether somebody over here in the attendees, I see various names. Please raise your hand. There is a hand symbol. I don't see a single hand raised here. Let me I'll just first give chance to the people around, then I'll come to you. Is Annapurna here? Are you hearing?
Yes, Swamiji.
Okay, I'm just checking again because I wondered whether there is some audio or video problem. Okay, let me see whether anyone has raised the hand. Yes, Satya has a question. Oh, I have talked about Satya whole webinar, so no wonder Satya has a question, or Kripa. Let me remove the hand and unmute the microphone. Yes, Kripa or Satya.
Yeah, this is Satya. Kripa couldn't make it this morning. The integrity, it's kind of a circular equation. I'm trying to figure out how to break out of the circle, so to speak. Here's what I mean by that. Your inner peace, the integrity, and all of the things that you talked about, you need to have enough of an idea of what it means to have the integrity, right? and then you follow that, you are at peace with yourself. So my question is really, how do you get to that point, and then how do you know that you're gone to that point? And I'll give you a flip side of it. There are a lot of people who are, let's just say, for lack of a better word, crooks. They're at peace with themselves. They think that they're doing the right thing. Somebody who stole money, and he probably thinks that he's doing the right thing, he's rationalized it. So there is a differentiation that needs to happen between people who simply rationalize and say, yeah, I did that, I'm okay, I'm at peace with it. Versus somebody who is following the right path and knowing that what is right, what is wrong, and then still be in peace with it. Am I communicating my confusion here?
Actually, there is some crackling of sound also as problem with the audio. I could hear some words and not all your words. Can you give your question again in a summary way? Are you saying some people say we are at peace even though they are living a dishonest life?
Absolutely, that's exactly what I'm saying.
I see.
And I mean, until they're at peace and they have no issues. They think that they rationalize, justify themselves, that they're doing the right thing for whatever their own reasons are.
Yeah, they are sort of relatively happy because their eyes are upon some success that they have got, and actually they have no idea of the profound peace which mystics talk about, and therefore they may say, and it is like quite likely that they may say it as some kind of justification. They may be in other words not fully true also. I would not believe them fully, but even if it is true that they have peace, at this moment they do not know what it is to have the, not only all these mystics, but even great poets have talked about touching the timeless. Those are not mere words. I believe in the Bible there is an expression, the peace that passeth understanding. In Upanishads, Gita, we have similar expressions. So my summary answer is, these people who say they have peace, first of all, they don't have the peace we are talking about. They have some degree of satisfaction. And secondly, there may be some kind of whitewashing, covering up that they may be doing too.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Yeah.
I have a different question, but I will not raise it until I give a chance to other people. If I have time, I'll raise that.
Yes. Let me now take a question from the audience that are right in front of me here in Sikkim, Gangtok, in this retreat venue. Piyul Mukherjee has a question.
Swami, my question is similar to the question which the gentleman asked you.
Yeah.
People say when you have societal ills, if I may call it, like casteism,
Yeah.
or gender, like a patriarchal society.
Yeah.
People behave in certain ways with what they believe is full integrity.
Right.
Which, for hundreds of years, it's only now with changing times that, we are throwing a different light.
Yeah.
So they would have perhaps been under the illusion that they are fully spiritual because for them it's integrated.
Right. Yeah. Piyul also, yes, audience are hearing over there. She says for ages there have been families, there have been societal structures where people behave according to some patterns, and they project themselves as very well placed, honest, respectable and respected citizens, and they seem to be somewhat content. So it's very similar to the question asked by Satya before. And I would once more answer the same way. Yeah, they might have put up their chest and said, I am very happy, I am so content, my life is so good, and blah blah. They may say, definitely it is better than somebody crying and weeping and somebody saying where I have gone wrong and all those things. But then this kind of claiming to be righteous, I have lived a righteous life, I am happy, etc., is certainly not the true level of peace we are talking of. On a scale of 100 in a manner of saying, these people may be on 60 or 70, but the mystics and the enlightened souls who are of interest to us in spirituality are at 100, so to say. It is, as Jesus said, peace that passeth understanding. So, Ramana or Ramakrishna and so on, the kind of happiness in which they live is way above the happiness of these people. This is just some kind of, relative happiness. One pats oneself on the back, and typically there are people in the family or institution who also, when they get an opportunity, would praise these people. Here is our uncle, here is our grandpa, he has lived such a noble life. Grandpa, we are proud of you. All this blah blah all of us do on some ceremonies, on some functions, etc. The society is full of, these giving compliments to each other. So many awards and so many things are done in this world. They all have a certain place, certainly, but they don't come anywhere near the integration that we are talking of in the spiritual context. Sanjeev Singh has a question here. Let me unmute Sanjeev's microphone. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, this is better, I think. Voice is better.
So, Swami, we are faced with this situation. There are all these gray areas where you don't have complete information, or maybe your values are more determined by your background, your moral values rather than spiritual values. Or there are things in the world that are against our values, but we did not create it, we cannot change it. So, how do you handle these gray areas?
Gray areas. So, Sanjeev's question is, there are a lot of places where the area is gray. You are not very sure what is right, what is wrong. I think in gray areas you can, do either way. But deal with those areas where it is not gray, where it is black and white in your conscience. Deal with those areas firmly. Then what today is gray comes out in black and white pretty soon. Because our vision or our perception today is little affected by pride, by hurt, by fear, and so on. Very many issues seem to be very confusing. But once we are more and more fearless, more and more free of hurt, because the hurt and fear are part of our consciousness at a given point of time, then we'll realize that, why was I confused? This clearly is wrong, this clearly is right. This clearly I do need, is a need, not greed, and this other thing is absolutely unnecessary. I don't need this fame, name, this pleasure, this power, this position. Very clearly we see that we don't need it. The gray area is more in life when our perception itself is not clear. To repeat once more, certain things which are actually not necessary for us because of our unclear perception come across as needs. Our needs or people's needs. Sometimes we think that, oh, that fellow needs. Are you sure he needs? Are you sure she needs? Suppose parents are very attached to children, they may think that anything that the child asks is the child's true need. If parents have a bit more objectivity, they will be able to distinguish, this child is asking for this, actually this child doesn't need it, and I should not pamper the child, and so on. So in the matter of what others need, in the matter of what we ourselves need, there is confusion when our mind is less clear. So it is through, to sum up the answer, it is through being more firm in the black and white areas that today's gray areas slowly become very clear and black and white.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone here? Alternately, we can go, or let's check. Looks like there is no question among the people on the internet. Oh, there is one. Oh, Satya again. Let me see if there is no one else. Satya gets second chance. We appreciate Satya, your avid interest. Go ahead, your question again.
Yeah, you know, when we talk about yes, I'm spiritual, the spirituality, that all has, at the end of the day, I'm trying to validate this thought, because that's the question at the end of all that, is for the person to be happy and peaceful. I'm using these words in very, very generic terms, and not very specific. Question number one related to that is that a correct view of things? Why would you be spiritual? What's the end result of being spiritual? That is so that you are happy within yourself. Would you buy that? Yes.
Again, there was a bit of crackling of voice. So let me ask you, are you asking at the end of the day, if somebody is at peace, is that peace the final test of spirituality? Is that what you are asking?
Yeah, I think that's probably one way to put it. Yes.
Ah, oh, okay. Not exactly, because there is deceptive peace also. You see, even a terrorist, when he destroys, he rejoices. But it's a deceptive rejoicing. So, using traditional language, the soul actually is going down and the soul is deteriorating when one takes pleasure in destroying, hurting others, and so on. But it's a self-deception. So at the end of the day, if somebody experiences a lot of peace, it may be a deceptive peace. Down the road, one may have to pay with interest for certain kinds of peace which one has derived out of wrongful means. So my summary answer is peace by itself is not a sign. Peace that is lasting, peace that is, it has a different smell altogether, I would say. And not all may be able to recognize. Neither one oneself nor one's friends may be able to recognize it so easily. That's the catch there.
Thank you, Swami. Thank you.
Okay, I guess we have space for one more last question. Is any hand raised? Let me see. Not really. Rita Joshi, please. Okay, I have to unmute.
Hello?
Rita.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, please say.
This is Sriram. With me here. So one of the other words for being spiritual, maybe in Gita, is nirdvandva. And can you hear me?
But yeah, voice is a bit crackling.
Maybe
but still I can make out. Go ahead.
One of the other words that is used in Gita for jnani, I think, is nirdvandva, which means non-duality. And in a sense, that is integration because you are joining all the parts together. Is my statement clear?
Nirdvandva. You use the word nirdvandva?
Yes.
Nirdvandva, yes. Gita uses the word nirdvandva.
So that means integration of all the dualities into one, unity. And that is, I think, what you are talking about in a way, eliminating all the confusion, all the issues, and becoming one with oneself. And that is being spiritual. But I think we all seem to fall in the trap of Dvandva all the time, And when you, I'm not referring to anybody in particular, but when one uses words like good and bad and happy and unhappy and all that, I feel we what should I say, unintentionally begin to fall in the duality. And I would say a spiritual person is just the person who is, and he's not bothered about whether the world is doing something and whether he is this and that. No adjectives actually come anywhere close to describing his state of mind. And I would say just being with yourself, just being happy. I mean, whether you call it happy or peaceful or content or whatever it is, just be. I think that is being spiritual.
Yes, nirdvandva is a powerful word. It describes for me, it describes the absence of conflict. And that absence of conflict is not because we are under the influence of some drug or sleepy or something. The absence of conflict is because of tremendous clarity. One sees things so clearly, and therefore the society or some other sectors cannot influence one, cannot make one feel guilty, because society has its own yardsticks. Whereas this nirdvandva is seeing things, like I said in my lecture, maybe he had said a lie, he had spoken a lie, but inside him, he did it. Rather than compromise, he did it as a sacrifice. And therefore, on a higher level, he is in agreement with conscience. Then he is nirdvandva. He, like Socrates, when he is taking the poison, he was, I would imagine, at great peace, because he was very clear. He was not at fault. So he delivers one speech and then takes the poison and dies. So that is a nirdvandva state. Same way, you and I may be blamed by somebody, but if we really are spiritual and we have clarity, we will be free of conflict. We may even say to our critics, thank you for your comment, God bless you. Not out of vengeance or some negative emotion, gently and sympathetically. Yeah, thank you. That nirdvandva is a powerful word. Thank you for suggesting that. So, all right, till next time. Hari Om. Namaste, everybody. You people can hear even after I.
Thank you. So